Stormborn by Black K. Cat. Chapter 31 Finale. Broken Absolution. Allegro to Adagio. Allegro, a direction to make the tempo fast and lively. Adagio, from the expression ad agio, at ease, to be played slowly, restfully. With so many powers present on the field, it's less of a battle and more of a rout of the Zetsu clones. Tsunade can't really say she cares. She goes in low, a hard punch shattering the ground beneath a knot of clones' feet, and a fire jutsu roars past her a bare inch above her head. Wind follows it like a tearing shriek, and the flame erupts into a gust of heat and destruction, reducing the targets to nothing more than charred corpses within moments. Tsunade pushes to her feet as Jiraiya and Orochimaru land on either side of her, already lunging, and follows without having to ask what the plan is. This is familiar. This is stepping down a ladder in the dark with nothing to catch one's foot or make one falter. This is what's been missing in her life for more than 30 years, and she finds she's grinning, small and sharp and fierce. Orochimaru on her left and Jiraiya on her right, enemies in front of them and no need to hold back or show mercy. Constructs, clones, all of them, and Tsunade plows into a pair aiming for Orochimaru's back, lays them out and forges on. With a snarl, she seizes one unfortunate clone who's trying to grab Jiraiya, lifts it right off its feet, even though it's a good 5 inches taller than her, and chucks it as hard as she can. It's only after it's left her hand that she remembers they're hardly alone on the battlefield and winces. Right in the path of the clone's flight, there's a man with red hair and a sharply pointed beard, clad in deep blue and dove gray and wearing an Uzushio Hitayate tied on his brow. Tsunade opens her mouth to call a warning, but before she can, the man twists, ducks, and comes up with a surge of molten rock following his cake. It consumes the clone, even as the creature is punted straight into another knot of its fellows. The red-headed man sends a surge of lava washing over them with a wave of his hand and salutes Tsunade with a sharp grin and turns away. There are 4 thick lines extending from the spiral on his Hitayate, and Tsunade wonders what it means. Then, with a deep-throated roar, the redhead brings his hands together, chakras surging and snapping around him, and his body wavers. Half a moment later, a gigantic 4-tailed ape is in his place, and it wades into the fight with a booming laugh. Ahead of him, clones are piling together, bodies twisting and merging, but the Yonbi never pauses before it slams right into them. Oh! Tsunade thinks a little weakly. Because she's used to how shinobi fight, used to power and bloodlines and abilities that leave civilians staring in terrified awe, but to see Agent Jiraiya use their powers so easily, with such control, makes her brain more or less grind to a halt. And the red-headed man is hardly alone in his use of a tailed beast. Above their heads, a girl with beetle wings is swooping here and there, flashes of blinding light following her. Following closely behind is a woman with long claws on her hands and feet, slicing through the blinded clones with single-minded purpose. Another red-headed man, this one younger, lean instead of burly, stands on the western edge of the battlefield, feet planted as he directs a surge of sand to fight for him. Somewhere else, there's a man's loud laughter, shoved into raps that make those around him cringe, even as tentacles flinging opponents left and right. And in the center of the field, a vast slug with 6 tails is decimating clones with something that eats and burns like acid. 6 Jinchuriki on the same field, all fully in control of themselves and their tailed beasts. Tsunade feels a little lightheaded just thinking about the implications. Especially since 4 of them are wearing Uzushios Hitayate. When she drags her wandering attention back under control and faces forward again, the clones in front of her team have started merging too, twisting together and rising up like a monster from a child's nightmare. Tsunade feels her breath catch in her throat, but plants her feet and clenches her fists, dropping into a ready stance. Plan? Jiraiya asks, eyeing the thing as it grows. Orochimaru snorts, shaking out his sleeves and sizing the creature up with the tip of his head. I'm astonished you're bothering to ask, Jiraiya. Don't you want to charge at its head first and let it eat you? Aye! Jiraiya protests, pinning the snake's hand with a deeply offended glare. Who was it that insisted our room was empty and then it was a perfect opportunity to check for records, only to have us burst in on a meeting of the leaders? And who was planning on just bolting straight across the border into a trap? Orochimaru retorts acidly, eyes narrowing sharply. At least I... Boys! Tsunade cuts in, and it's truly a curious feeling to suffer from both an oncoming headache, or two of them more to the point, and a deep surge of nostalgic fondness at the same time. Can we focus on the 20-foot tall monster in front of us and leave the bickering until later, please? Orochimaru sniffs like he has no idea what she's berating him for, but immediately turns his attention to the masked clones. Lightning, he offers, hands already coming up to form the necessary seals. Jiraiya scoffs. In this weather, I may think of the collateral damage. With this much water on the ground, we take out half of our own forces. So let's raise a barrier, Tsunade counters, pushing in between them with a huff of pure exasperation. You can do your slap kiss routine when we're done here. Jiraiya, plant the seals. Orochimaru, help me distract it. No lightning! Not until we have the barrier up. With a roll of his eyes, Orochimaru leaps forward and uplure, Kusanagi already in hand. Tsunade rolls her eyes right back. Even as she follows him, a single punch sends the creature reeling, and Orochimaru carves off an arm before grasping branch-like tentacles force him to leap away. The creature regrows its arm, but it shrinks its body to do so, and Tsunade smiles with grim satisfaction. Orochimaru lands beside her, light on his feet, and they move together, Tsunade aiming low as her teammate aims high, and the giant clone staggers back again, almost falling. The ground! Orochimaru calls, fending off several branches at once, and then has to leap aside as another clone emerges under his feet, but Tsunade catches his meaning in a moment. The rain is torrential and unrelenting, and there's already a good amount of water pooled all around them. She brings her hands together, flickering through seals, and the ground gives away beneath the creature's feet, widening into a deep curve. Water rushes in, pooling at the bottom, and rising even as she watches, and a simple wave of Orochimaru's hand brings more cascading down until the creature is just about knee-deep in it. Ready! Jiraiya shouts, and Tsunade springs back, Orochimaru mirroring her, until they're each standing at one of the three seals Jiraiya has carved into the ground. She slams her hand down, chakra flaring around her before it erupts, leaping from her seal to Jiraiya's, then on to Orochimaru's, and right back to her. The moment it steadies, Orochimaru rises, hands flickering through familiar seals, one palm against the barrier, a murmured phrase, and then the crackle and flare of far too much lightning for comfort surges between them, leaving Tsunade all but deaf and blind as it rages. The smell of scorched plant matter lingers in the air as her senses finally begin to clear, and she shakes her head to get the ringing out of her ears as she stands. Across from her, a cloud of smoke hits Jiraiya in the face and makes him cough, and he waves it away with an annoyed expression that just barely hides his grin. Orochimaru, was that conversation for something? You know, everyone's different. There's no need to be ashamed of— Ow! Idiot! Orochimaru is looking for all the world like he's about to remove Jiraiya's head from his shoulders in addition to smacking him. But Tsunade has known him all of her life, can read him like an open picture book, and there's definitely embarrassment beneath the bluster. Shut your full mouth, Jiraiya, or I will shut it for you. Jiraiya crosses his arms and directs a scowl at the other man. No matter how much chakra you used, that still only counts as one kill, he retorts almost peevishly, and Tsunade has to roll her eyes again because— Really? That's what he's focusing on here? It counts as one each. We all helped kill it. She intervenes, reaching out and, in an unfortunately very familiar motion, grabbing both of them by ear. Jiraiya yelps. Orochimaru winces. But they're both accustomed enough to this maneuver to go with it as she pulls them forward, protests notwithstanding. Of course, ow, Hime, please! Tsunade, stop, we have discussed this! Oh, shut up, both of you! I've had enough! She snaps right back, shifts her grip to seize each of them by the collar, and then sets her feet and flings them right into another group of sets of clothes. It's like bowling, she thinks a little whimsically, and not without a touch of mischief, as she watches her teammates knock the clones right off their feet, and then roll back upright and gamely start laying out around them. Pushing up her sleeves, Tsunade makes to follow them, only to feel eyes on her. She spins, fists coming up automatically, and finds herself staring into the face of a man she hasn't seen in over a century. Grandfather? She asks, and her voice breaks halfway through, because it's one thing to see him at a distance just passing by, but it's another entirely to come face to face like this, to find him watching her with an unreadable expression on his wise, kind face. Tsunade, he answers with a warm, soft smile, reaching out to touch her cheek. Look at you! And Jiraiya shouts, Orochimaru hisses, and Tsunade finds herself moving before she can even think about it, plunging into the fray and back to her teammates' sides. They leave a pile of defeated clones behind them, and when she finally manages to glance back, Hashirama is still watching her. If anything, his smile is brighter now, brilliant and proud, and Tsunade's breath catches somewhere around her heart, filling her chest with warmth and a happy sort of gratification. Always she's wanted to be the kind of Hokage that would make her grandfather and granduncle and teacher proud of her, and maybe she's actually succeeded. Come on, you're falling behind, Jiraiya calls, laughing and bright, even as he calls about Rasengan. This another bet you're gonna lose, Tsunade? Not on your life, she retorts, dodging a burst of weak Bogotan and crushing the attacking clone's head with a single blow. So far, you're both losing, Orochimaru reminds them smugly, shaking a bit of plant matter off his sword. After all, I am the one who called back— Wait just 1 minute here! Jiraiya cuts in, voice full of affronted dignity. He pauses, still holding on to a slumped clone, to scowl at Orochimaru. You do not get to add whatever the resurrected Hokage kill to your total. That's cheating, Teme, and this time I won't let it slide, you hear me? Orochimaru's eyes narrow, and he casually decapitates a trio of clones before turning to face Jiraiya squarely. And why would it be? He demands. It was my jutsu that called them, therefore they can be considered of my creation, and just because you used a creepy zombie jutsu doesn't mean— It most certainly does. It does not, because if I called up a summon, you'd claim that didn't count, so a summoning is a simple application of widespread knowledge. Edo Tensei is far more sophisticated and— Boys! Tsunade wraps their heads together sharply, ignoring the twin protests the move gets her. Do I really need to throw you around some more? Move it! We've got a fight to win! But Hime, Tsunade, move it! Even after 30 years apart, they know better than to argue with that tone of voice and lunge forward obediently, heading for where a knot of Chunin are pinned down. Tsunade risks one more glance back and finds her grandfather in the crowd again. He's laughing, barely able to keep on his feet from the force of it as he hangs onto Tobirama's armor. Tobirama rolls his eyes heavenward, long-suffering, but then he meets her gaze with a smile of his own and nods. Just once. That's all she needs, and Tsunade beams back, then spins on her heel and follows her boys without another hesitation. The whirl and warp of Kamui is slower this time, almost casual as it reappears, but Naruto tenses at the sight of it. He's crouched on his heels, Kagami on one side and his father on the other, Sarutobi wary and silent behind them, because at this point there's really nothing to do but wait. Either Kakashi can make his argument or not, but either way, it's out of their hands. Naruto has faith in himself, knows that he can usually get people to see an issue in a new light and moderate their actions, but for Obito, who's been twisted and turned around and whose will of fire is so deeply buried as to be unreachable, the matter isn't so simple. Bringing him around on Naruto's own would take a miracle or a fight desperate and widespread enough to level Konoha in the process. He can't risk that. Won't. Because for all that is not his home anymore, Konoha is still Sasuke's home. Still belongs to so very many of his precious people. And Naruto isn't good at waiting, has always loathed sitting on his hands and leaving work to other people, but he chokes on a breath, bolting to his feet as Obito appears, a limp, lanky body cradled carefully in his arms. Kakashi is completely still, utterly motionless, and Naruto takes one step forward with his chakra building dangerously before he catches the faint rise and fall of the Kapi's chest, and feels relief crash over him like a wave. Kakashi! Minato breathes from behind him, obviously seeing the same thing. Obito looks down at his old teammate for a long moment, face frozen in the same grim, weary expression he's worn throughout this whole fight, and then drops to one knee and lays Kakashi out on the ground. There's absolutely nothing rough about his movements. On the contrary, he's startlingly gentle, positioning limbs for comfort before he stands again. Stepping away. Obito! Kagami tries, sharp and almost accused, though there's something desperate to it as well. Obito looks back at Kakashi one more time, then turns to face them squarely, chin lifting. Naruto recognizes the gesture. It's one of Kagami's, and he saw it as Arashi, enough to know it only comes when Kagami is at his most intractable, when he's dug his heels in and won't be moved for all the gold or good luck in the world. It's probably too much to hope that his son isn't the same. I couldn't let him stop me, Obito says, but Naruto looks up, eyes widening, because for the first time there's a waver in his voice. For the first time there's something in his eyes beyond surprise or grim and empty determination. Naruto knows just how good a shinobi Kakashi is, knows just how wide his skill set is. But for all of that, Obito is strong, trained by Madara himself with the Megenkyo Sharingan and Hashirama's Mokuton, and decades of honing his abilities to the absolute maximum. To someone that powerful, Kakashi is a threat, but likely not that much of one. So it isn't through force that Obito was worried about Kakashi stopping him. Not by actions, but words. Because somewhere deep down, buried under hate and grief and rage, Obito is still a Konoha shinobi with all the implications of being so. Because regardless of Madara's aims of destroying Konoha and everyone in it, Obito wants to save the world and suffering and loss. It's a twisted, broken way of doing so, maybe, but he's hardly a figure of irredeemable evil. He's killed and manipulated and played with lives, is responsible for so much suffering and loss, but Naruto can look past that to what's buried. Obito can still be saved, no matter what he's done. There's a small noise, a shift, and a sound, and Obito glances to where Kakashi lies again. Just briefly, and with his emotions still masked. But it's enough. When he turns back, his expression is strange. There's something in it that Naruto can't read. Something he can't even begin to understand, no matter how his gut is screaming at it that it's important. Torn. Naruto realizes with a start. Obito looks torn when he hasn't so much as wavered in his goal before, and that can only be Kakashi's doing. He takes another step forward, reaching out, and Sharingan eyes snap back to him. This time, Naruto can see the conflict in them, though he isn't certain as to its cause. But Obito only looks at him for a brief moment before glancing away towards Kagami. You're an Uchiha, he says after a moment, hands curling into fists at his sides. His composure is breaking rapidly now, falling away in pieces and leaving an angry, emotionally battered man behind. You were in love, and the world took that away from you. Took you away from me, he doesn't say. But Naruto has experienced enough loneliness to hear it like an echo behind his words. How can you just stand there? Don't you want to do something about it? Don't you want to make it so no one ever feels that again? Kagami sighs and steps forward, laying a hand on Naruto's shoulder as he steps past in silent signal to let him handle this. Naruto grimaces, but retreats a step to stand beside his father again. His friend pushes forward until he's standing right in front of Obito, square and steady and unmoving. No, he says firmly. I don't. That's not how the world works. That's not how it should work. Everyone here has lost someone precious, but he trails off with a faint smile and shakes his head. Orochimaru pulled us back to this plane, and I can't remember the Pure Land, but I know I was there. I know it was beautiful and peaceful, and I'm absolutely certain that when I go back there, Azami will be waiting to show me the way. And when it's your time to die, Rin will be waiting to guide you across too. It's lost, yes, but not forever. Just parting for the moment. And it hurts, I know, but it will end, and there will be happiness after that. This world isn't the only one, Obito. This isn't the be-all and end-all of existence. I know it's hard to think of such things right now, but please, look around you. Don't you want this girl you love to be able to greet you with a smile when it's time for you to see her again? Obito turns away with a snarl somewhere between grief and rage. That's all it wrenched out of him, hurtling forward and slamming his fist into the trunk of a tree. Naruto winces at the crack of breaking bones and splintering wood, but Obito doesn't even seem to notice. His teeth are bared, his face twisted with emotion, and his shoulders heave as he fights for control of himself. Can't stop me, he whispers, and Naruto can't quite hear the words before that, even though he knows there were some. Important, he knows. Vital. This is... Obito raises his head to look at them, but his eyes are empty. blank. "You can't stop me," he says again, but this time it's a plea, falling in a desperate tumble from his lips as he staggers upright. "You can't stop me. I can't stop. You can't." A flutter of wings, a rustle of leaves, and a crow alights on the branch above his head, settling and then cocking its head to look down at them, all with one blood-red eye. Footsteps then, and Naruto turns, half expecting some enemy to come bursting out, but instead his heart turns over in his chest because it's Sasuke emerging from the trees, wary Sharingan eyes flickering over the group. He pauses on Minato, and then again on Kagami and Obito, but it's Naruto his eyes finally settle on, and with a single quick bound he's at Naruto's side, one hand on his shokoto. "You're alright?" he asks, surveying Obito warily and then glancing back at the blonde, clearly checking for injuries. "Fine!" Naruto tells him with a smile. "Don't worry so much, Teme. You're going to give yourself wrinkles. Zetsu?" "Dead," a new voice murmurs, and it's not the shock it should be to see Itachi following Sasuke out of the shadows. Not after everything that's happened today. The former clan heir bows to the two Hokage politely and then turns to the unfamiliar Uchiha. He pauses for a moment, the only evidence of his surprise, and then glances between Obito and Kagami with a perfectly even expression. "I see. I was wrong in assuming Madara was behind all of this. My mistake." "Not really," Naruto says cheerfully, rocking back on his heels and raising a brow at his boyfriend. Sasuke raises one right back, looking entirely alright with having his brother at his back, and Naruto takes that to mean they've at least started to work things out. "He's been pretending to be Madara for about 20 years now. I can see where someone would get confused." "Giving up so easily, Itachi?" Obito asks, but he's not looking at the other Uchiha as he drags a hand over his face, shaking his head as though to clear it, and his voice is absent, more than biting. "Where was that will I so admired?" The crow shuffles slightly in place and croaks out an eerie cry. Itachi smiles faintly. "It has never left this village," he answers. "I am, as I have always been, a loyal shinobi of Konoha." "A pity," Obito murmurs, and Kamui warps around him as he vanishes from sight. Instantly, Naruto tenses and spins, and without so much as a heartbeat of hesitation, Sasuke does the same, placing himself at Naruto's back with his chokoto in hand. Naruto flips Saji around, wary of even the faintest flicker of chakra, and asks, "Kagami, can you do anything?" Kagami shakes his head as he moves to guard Sarutobi's flank, Minato hovering over Kakashi's still form with a kunai in hand. "No, our Kamui must connect to different dimensions. Your guess is as good as..." Rain twisting ever so slightly out of its normal path as the warp begins, and Naruto feels it. He lunges forward and to the left, and then Ajinata intercepts a hail of kunai thrown at impossible speeds right before they reach Itachi. Half an instant later, Sasuke is at his side, dragging Naruto out of the way as fire erupts where he was standing, and Naruto moves with him, takes the momentum and uses it, but Obito's gunbai blocks Saji's blade before it can strike. A flash of yellow light, a movement too fast to follow, and Minato bowls Obito over bodily, then just barely manages to dodge a burst of reaching branches. Kamui again, but this time its spiral spins in the opposite direction, and the deadly sharp Mogothon vanishes into another dimension. Kagami wades in, but is immediately knocked back by the gunbai, crashing into the battered wall with a shout. Growling, Naruto throws himself forward, arcs of winds, leaving his fingertips with deadly force, but Obito passes right through the jutsu, right through Naruto, and Naruto immediately whirls, even though he knows it's too late, too slow, and Reikiri crackles to life as Sasuke meets his cousin with a snarl, punching right through his chest in what should be a killing blow, but Obito laughs at him, hollow and humorless, and vanishes like a ghost without any care for the hole where his heart should be. Sarutobi nearly catches a gout of fire to the face before he ducks and spins, turning the fire right back on Obito, and Naruto and Minato both take the opening, lunging from either side. Naruto goes high, Ajinata driving forward even as wind and water began to whirl around the blade, while Minato aims lower, his kunai going for a stomach blow. Obito flicks a hand, Mokotan erupting from the ground like spears to knock Minato off course, and then he reaches out to duck under Naruto's blow and catch Saji by the haft, attempting to wrench it right out of Naruto's hands. But Naruto knows that trick, knows how to beat it. because Haku likes to do that too, and he just tightens his grip and directs his chakra to his feet, kicking off to flip right over Obito's head and throw him off balance when he refuses to release the Najinata. And in the half second that Obito can't quite find his footing, Sasuke takes advantage, wrapping Obito in ninja wires and sending lightning racing down the strands. Obito cries out, staggering and nearly falling as the smell of scorched meat fills the air. Naruto gags on it, remembering Uzushio, remembering when the city began to burn and there was no one left to put it out, but he pushes forward, trying for the same blow that knocked Danzo out when... Stop, Itachi says, utterly mild, but it nevertheless rings over the battlefield, stilling all the combatants in their tracks. Naruto freezes, startled, and meets Sasuke's equally confused stare over a motionless Obito's shoulder. But even after a long moment, Obito stays motionless. Naruto draws back warily, searching for some sort of trap, but there is none. Obito isn't moving, his face unnaturally blank, his eyes closed as he sways slightly in place. It's as though he's a marionette and someone just cut his strings. The girl gives another short cry and drops down to land on Itachi's outstretched arm, and its red eye has faded back to plain black. Itachi strokes a hand over its feathers, then looks up to meet the 5 baffled gazes currently fixed on him. A gift, he says, then raises his arm and lets the crow take flight again. I believe Shisui would have been most pleased to know his sacrifice could put an end to this fight. Sarutobi makes a noise somewhere between a chuckle and a sigh, finally relaxing from his taijutsu stance to remove his helmet and run a hand over his head. Indeed, he agrees wearily, and then nods to the rest of them. It's over. Kotoa Matsukami is not something that can be shaken off or broken once it's completed. Obito is no longer our enemy. He has accepted that what you have told him is true. Itachi agrees. His full loyalty is to Konoha once more. Kagami blows out and aggrieved by the dragging himself out of the hole he made in the wall and staggering upright. Wonderful, he says dryly, approaching as Sasuke withdraws his ninja wire and stepping forward in time to catch his son as Obito starts to fall. Now who's going to help me put him over my knee? The release of tension is like a flood of relief, filling him all the way down to his toes, and Naruto plants Sachi's middle-capped butt in the earth and leans against it, all but boneless. That responsibility is all yours, he counters. You're his father, not me. Technically, you're his godfather, Kagami points out. Naruto snorts. Technically, I'm not. Seeing as Uzumaki Arashi died several decades ago and I'm Uzumaki Naruto, I have nothing to do with your son. Kagami blinks. His eyebrows go up, then up again, as though attempting to merge with his hairline, and then... Naruto, he says, voice full of glee and a wide, wicked, absolutely delighted grin spreading over his face. Naruto! Whatever sorry idiot bothered you? I, Minato protests, actually named you Naruto! Kagami forges on as though he didn't hear the interruption. He lets out a crow of absolute mirth at no little victory and levels an accusing finger at his friend. I was right! Naruto, knowing exactly what this is about, borrows Kurama's vocals to direct a spine-chilling growl at Uchiha. Kagami, don't you dare! Kagami just hoots with unrestrained laughter. You were reincarnated as a fish cake! Oh, Kami, I told you! Fish cake, I warned you, but ow! I also remember some sort of promise to die living! Naruto growls, raising Sashi threateningly again. So, go on, I'm waiting! Sarutobi covers his eyes with a long-suffering sigh and mutters, I'd forgotten. You two are even worse than Jiraiya and Orochimaru. How could I have forgotten? Naruto is a perfectly good name, Minato protests. It's from a book! An important, highly respectable book! Sasuke rolls his eyes, reaching out to grip Naruto's shoulder, and Naruto turns to look at him with his cheeks still faintly flushed. He catches Sasuke's gaze and smiles apologetically, mouth curving up into a grin when he sees the humor in dark eyes. We won, he says, just for Sasuke's ears. We won! We did, Sasuke agrees. Together, we all did. Naruto laughs, and when Sasuke pulls him forward, he goes with it, letting Itachi fall to the ground. His arms wind around his waist. He reaches up, sliding one hand into Sasuke's hair to pull him close, and Sasuke kisses him like breathing, like it's absolutely the most unnecessary thing to him. Like any space between them is too much. Naruto kisses back just as desperately, feeling the ebb and flow of fading chakra in the distance as all of the fighting winds down. As the world settles back into normal shinobi levels of calm, and this is a victory. This is success like honey on his tongue. Sasuke's mouth slanting over his and strong hands curled around his hips, like the press of fingers against his skin, even through layers of clothes, and the feel of Sasuke's slick silk hair sliding through his own fingers. Sasuke nips at his lips, and Naruto tugs on his hair in return, and it makes them both smile, both grin, even as they wind around each other. Never before has Naruto believed in the romantic ridiculousness Karin is so fond of. He's always scoffed at things like two hearts beating in perfect unison, but this, he thinks, gleeful and glorying in something so perfectly, effortlessly simple. This is probably about as close as real life comes. And it's theirs.